Hello, and thank you for tuning in to my first podcast episode with Time with Tembi. And I am calling this podcast Women of Leisure. For those of you who are not familiar with my story, my name is Tembi Costa-Susini. I am a native of New York City and expat currently living in the south of France. I enrolled in university at 47 with the express purpose of studying abroad, enrolling in study abroad in a study abroad program in France with the purpose of becoming fluent in French. I came here and just months prior to my 50th birthday, I declared myself forever single, having no children, never having been married. I just didn't see it in my future. But you know what they say, life had other plans. So I am currently now in my garden or our garden, sitting on our vineyard that overlooks the Mediterranean Sea. Just on the opposite side of this wall is where I was living and how I met my husband. So that's a little bit about me. So today's premiere debut episode, I thought I'd talk a little bit. Well, I've already given away it a little bit. I thought I'd talk a little bit about child free by choice or circumstance. So, there is one question women without children are asked more than any other. Do you regret it? I was first asked this question in a way that truly made me stop and think. It was my first summer teaching at a prestigious boarding school here in Provence. I was meeting with all the other teachers, and to my surprise, there were a number of teachers from the States, actually. And one particular, well, actually, he was the soccer coach, the football coach. And if you know anything about French culture, football is huge out here. So he was the soccer coach, well, football coach, and he told me that, and he was surprised, he was happy to hear that I was from New York City because he played professional soccer in New Jersey. I said, "Oh, so you played, so you lived in Hoboken because that's where the soccer stadium was, or it's not too far from Hoboken." And I know a lot of players lived in Hoboken. Well, he says to me, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. I lived in Hoboken, so we were essentially neighbors." So we got to talking, and he told me that when he and his wife, who's also French, mind you, he's originally from Guadeloupe, and he told me that when he and his wife decided to have children, or decided they were ready to have children, they knew they wanted to return to France to raise their children, to be close to relatives, and be in a more child-friendly environment. So, and of course, this leads to his logical question, well, do you have children? I said, no. No, I have no children. And he says, do you regret it? I said, no. Then I turned to him and said, wait a second, do you ask that question of everyone? And he said, no. And I said, well, why is that question reserved for people without children? Because many people have regrets. Regrets are not reserved for people without children. Much to his credit, he understood my point and we moved on with the conversation. But it stuck with me. It just stuck with me. And because when I look back at my life, I realized something very, very significant. I've only had two serious relationships in my life, averaging 4 years, or 4 years altogether. And these relationships happened when I was just before 30 and just at 30. So the majority of my productive, or I will say this, my adult years, I was not in any kind of relationship where I considered it leading to marriage, or I even considered what, or made me think about having a family with this particular anyone. Now I've dated, but when I think of honest, stable relationships, aside from my husband, there were only two. There were only two. And Today, I am married to an incredible, loving, hardworking, sincere man. And it's interesting because watching him around his nieces, nephews, and great nieces and nephews, he just has a natural ability with children. I've literally seen babies he did not know, reach for him, just reach for him. We've been in cafes where the baby at the next table just reach over for him. I've even seen on more than one occasion a woman pushing a baby stroller, and we don't even see the child. We just see her pushing a baby stroller, and this child just reaches out and grabs my husband's hand and just stares in his eyes. I've seen this more times than I can count. And what's interesting is that when I look back on my life, I've been pretty consistent with the fact that I did not want children. Everyone I met in my younger years told me, "Oh, you're going to change your mind. You're going to change your mind." And we know what that does when people say you're going to change your mind. That makes you even more defiant. But again, sitting here today, over 50 in full blown menopause, well into a year of full blown menopause. By the way, yes, I do know that it is still possible for another 10 years, but that's neither here nor there. It occurred to me, all of these people, including some close friends who were truly, truly hoping that I would change my mind on having children, I said, wait a second, when have you known me in a relationship with anybody that I could see myself with? So were you just hoping I just get knocked up and feel grateful, or what? I don't understand where this is coming from, but I do understand where this is coming from. So it's just interesting to look back on my life and say to myself, was it that I didn't want children, or was it just a matter of the fact that my circumstances and the people I was around did not make me feel safe enough, or I'd never felt safe enough to want or to allow myself to have children? But of course, looking back on it now, I can honestly say that no, I've been I have no regrets about it. Absolutely not. But then watching my husband, I said, would I have felt differently if I came across someone like him prior? Now, if I'm honest, I have come across other men like him, but I was not in the position to see it. And that is because I was so focused on what it is that I wanted to do for myself. Nothing, nothing. I did not have the luxury of getting derailed, or I did not have the luxury of that. So I think that the fact that I am now beyond that hurdle in the trenches, so to speak, of having to prove myself and pull myself up by my own bootstraps, I do think that I'm in the place where I can see that the beauty in that, but that does not mean that I regret any of my choices. And what, for me, my most proud accomplishment is creating a life that I have become proud of, where I can now see myself opening myself up to children. And guess what? I have children in my life in the form of great nieces, great nephews, and things who just reach for me and call me Tata. That's French for auntie. So my point here is this: of course, I do not regret the life that I have chosen. And that does not mean I never wonder about the road not taken. It simply means that gratitude has become stronger than any kind of speculation about whether or not choosing not to have children will become a regret later on. Some women raise children, some women birth children. Not necessarily one and the same, not always one and the same. Some women raise businesses. Some women raise ideas, communities, and entirely new versions of themselves. Case in point, regret is not determined by whether you become a mother. Regret is determined by whether you were honest with yourself and what you wanted to begin with. That's my 2 cents. And today I am grateful for the life I built and the love that found me exactly when it was meant to. Okay, that's all I have for now. This is my very first, as I mentioned, it's my first episode. And for the first time, I am filming out in our garden. This tree, I decided to do it underneath this tree. Let me give you a little backstory. Love this tree. Every October, my husband and I have to cut it back so that it blooms properly in the spring and summertime. So she's now just not quite peak, but she's in full bloom right now. And about a couple of weeks ago, I had a dream that there was a male lion sleeping underneath this tree. About a week later, my husband says, "Hey, you want to go to the zoo?" Sure enough, first thing we see, male lion sleeping right there on the ground in the exact same position in my dream. So I realized that it was telling me something. It's time to rest in this beautiful life that you have created. Rest does not mean work. Rest in this life of agency over my time, in the security of my home life, in the security and the beauty of my surroundings. So I've got a few things coming up for you guys. I will put this in print. This is my very first time doing this, so give me a minute. You can check out my YouTube channel. I've got a few more story times there about our journey. And if you have not, if you have not yet, please see my discovery kit. I created a discovery kit that is details my repositioning journey, my repositioning process of essentially leaving my life in New York City, going back to school. It basically gives you the 4-step process that I use to reposition myself. Okay, so have a look at that. I look forward to your feedback, and look forward to interacting with you here on Substack. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in.